Hi friends, Sarah here from Sunset Bow, doing kind of an interesting unboxing today. I got this kind of on a whim, and the reason is because I was browsing around Amazon one day, looking at decks, as one does, and I saw this deck, and I realized that I'd actually owned it before, and I completely forgot that I had. And in fact, I think this might have actually been the first deck I ever owned. Before I even got some of the other decks that I actually learned to read tarot on, I think I had this deck. And I think I couldn't use it because it was just a little too maybe advanced for me as a beginner, or it's a theme deck, so maybe that's why I wasn't able to really work with it or learn with it. And then apparently I don't even know what I did with it. And then apparently my brain just wiped it from my memory to the point that when people ask me what my first tarot deck was, I don't mention this one, but I think this is what it was. It's Legend, the Arthurian Tarot by Anne Marie Ferguson. And I saw it on Amazon and it was like $15, and I had this sort of weird mental, like, oh my God, I actually owned that deck at one point. I had forgotten that I owned it. What did I do with it? I don't even know. What if I saw it today, what would I think of it? And then I was like, well, it's $15, so I guess I'll find out if I saw it today what I would think of it. As somebody who is more advanced and has been reading tarot now for about 15 years, I'm curious to see what I'll think of it. It's one that doesn't get talked about a lot. I know Anne Marie Ferguson also did the Llewellyn Tarot, which I've seen a lot of people who have that deck. I never did actually own that deck, but I was always and still am very interested in Arthurian legend. And so I think that's the reason why this ended up being the first deck I ever bought. But then, as I recall, I just wasn't able to work with it. But again, I don't know if that's because I couldn't resonate with it or because I was a beginner and I don't know what happened to it. So I just saw it on Amazon and was like, what the hell? Let's see. This is an interesting experiment. So I just want to see what I think of it now, as somebody who is sort of coming back to it after many years and doesn't remember anything about it, because I guess I'm getting old and decrepit and my brain doesn't work anymore. I don't even know. So I'm going to go ahead and take this out of its lovely prime packaging. So here we go. So this is a Llewellyn deck. It looks like it's got the older Llewellyn packaging where it's sort of the floppy box and the cards and the book inside. But I'm going to go ahead and open this up. Take out the shrink wrap and see what I think of it. And again, I have no idea how I'm going to respond to this. I might be like, oh yeah, maybe I hated this deck and maybe I'm still going to hate it, or maybe I just wasn't ready for it, or I don't even know, but I guess we're going to find out. So again, this is Legend, the Arthurian Tarot. And I think this was a pretty popular deck kind of back in the day. As saying over 100,000 sold would seem to suggest. And again, I literally don't know what I did with it. But I guess, yeah, I guess I'll open it up and take a look. So, so again, this is the sort of full book deck set. So it comes with this book, A Keeper of Word, Legend, the Arthurian Tarot, which is, sort of more of an explanation. And again, this is like that old style, floppy, shitty Llewellyn box that like you're just gonna throw away because it's completely useless, and obviously you're not gonna, be putting anything back into it because that just doesn't make any sense. It comes with this weird little insert that looks like it should have the deck inside of it, but the deck doesn't come inside of it. I don't even know. None of it makes any sense to me. Llewellyn did really step up the game on its packaging, even though what it did with cardstock here super recently, where it went from like the normal Llewellyn, or the older Llewellyn cardstock that was, quite thin and slippery, but it was a really nice shuffle, and now it's all like got this crappy lamination on it that makes it feel like a Schiffer deck, and I'm just so upset about it. But anyway, so here's the deck. And, and I think it's a really pretty deck. I like the style of it, this sort of very soft watercolory style. And again, I think that resembles the Llewellyn Tarot quite a lot. But so it comes with this Hero's Journey spread, which, you know, also I think is a cool concept for a spread. You know, and I've actually often wanted to design my own spread around the hero's journey, but this will be interesting to take a look at as far as, you know, how her design of this spread works. So that's kind of cool. And then we have this book, and it's quite a nice book. It's a very thick book, as you would expect and should be expected from any kind of deck that you know, is really heavily theme-based like this, and is based around specific characters from specific myths, legends, folk tales. You know, since this is really strongly based on specific stories and elements of Arthurian legend. But it's, you know, it's a nice book. It's with the bibliography, it's like 250 pages. Which is good, and you know, goes through all of the majors, and you know, all of the majors and the minors, you know, have a very specific association with some aspect of the Arthurian legend. So that's kind of nice, you know. In some theme decks, you see that they did a really like specific job on the majors, you know, in terms of associating it with a theme, and then you just get a bunch of pips for the minors, like they kind of ran out of steam. But this one, you know, every single card has a specific association with something in the Arthurian legend, so I think that's really cool. But I think it also makes it kind of difficult maybe to learn, and that's probably why I struggled with it at the beginning when I first started learning tarot. But so she's got some just general thoughts on this, on the nature of tarot, discussing, you know, how she came up with the Arthurian elements of it, some just general discussion of the Arthurian legend, you know, kind of how to do readings, some spreads. She's got a Celtic cross here. She's got an astrology spread and a horseshoe spread. And then just some other kind of thoughts on tarot, and then goes into the cards. So each of the cards has, you know, just a black and white illustration of the card, but it's, you know, it's a nice full size, at least, illustration. And there's quite a bit of information, at least for the majors here, talking about the meaning of the card, a description of what you see in the card, like a long description with all of the different symbolism, and then a discussion of the actual myth and how that character figures into the myth. So, you know, really a lot of work done, I think, on this deck, and coming up with, you know, the different descriptions of the cards, how different figures are associated, and, you know, especially in the majors here, there's really a lot. But I'm going to just jump over into the minors here, just because I want to take a look at if there's a similar amount of information. And there still is, you know, quite a bit of information here. Even for the minors, you know, there's sort of a meaning given, and then there is kind of several paragraphs of discussion of the actual symbol or object or person from the Arthurian legend, and why it was chosen for this particular card. So I think that's really cool. Yeah, and like I said, I still love Arthurian legend. It's something that I'm still fascinated by. It's an important story to me, and so yeah. So I'm really, I'm already feeling like I'm kind of very interested to read this and start thinking about this. And as a person who actually knows some things about tarot now, as opposed to somebody who like literally obviously had no idea when I got this forever ago, and then promptly wiped it from my mind, apparently. I feel like I might be able to get more out of it. I'm already feeling like I might be able to get more out of it. So anyway, so I'm just going to go ahead and open up the deck here. So this is definitely older Llewellyn cardstock. You know, this is not the new horrendous laminated stuff. I mean, this isn't surprising because it comes in the old style box too. So this is definitely the sort of The thin, you know, very, very, very thin feeling, kind of slippery Llewellyn cardstock. It's, you know, when you actually look at the thickness of the deck, I don't think it is actually like super thin. You know, there are decks I've had that are thinner, but it's really floppy, you know. So it's that Llewellyn feel where it is, you know, it just doesn't feel super durable, but it is always a nice shuffle. Like I have some other decks that are this style of Llewellyn cardstock, and I enjoy working with them. You know, I don't think they're going to hold up over time, but they shuffle beautifully. And yeah, so the art style I think is really beautiful. You know, it does have kind of big borders on it. So, and I do kind of wish that there was a way to trim this so that, you know, there's so much kind of information. You know, each of the cards both gives you the sort of traditional tarot meaning of the card, and then it gives you the name of the person or thing or concept from the Arthurian legend that that the card depicts. So I think it's a little bit too, it would be too difficult to know what everything was, I think, if I trimmed it, or at least at this point. And it's got this kind of cool labyrinth on the back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a little bit, and I'm going to start going through some of these cards. You know, again, I don't see this, I haven't seen this deck around a lot. And definitely not recently. I don't know if maybe it's kind of out of style. But I feel like back when I picked it up, it was probably quite a bit more popular, you know, maybe 15 years ago. So yeah, I'm kind of curious to go through it and see what I think. And so I'm probably not going to flip through all of these because I don't, at this stage, have a lot to say about them. I think I'm going to have to read the book to really get more of a sense of some of these. You know, I'm familiar with some of these characters, obviously, but definitely others of them I'm going to need a refresher on the significance of the character or the significance of the object or whatever it might be, to really, you know, fully understand what's going on in the card and kind of respond to it in the way that you would expect from a first impressions video. So I'm just going to flip through some of the majors just to get a sense of the art style. You know, my initial impression of the art style, I do like it. It does feel a little bit pale and a little bit busy for the card size. So, you know, it almost feels like, you know, the paintings were done much bigger and then they were like shrunk down onto the card, and so you're kind of losing some of the imagery a little bit. You know, I can still see it, and I also am just not in the world's best lighting right now because I'm doing this video in the evening when it's dark outside, and so I'm under the horrendous artificial lighting in my room. But you know, it is a little bit hard to see some of the imagery. But I do think it's pretty, you know. I do think that I do like the art style. I've always been curious about the Llewellyn Tarot. I don't know if I've seen some images from that, and it doesn't feel quite as busy as this, or quite as kind of small feeling as this. I mean, I think the images in that deck are small, and they also have quite big borders on them, but within the image, I feel like there's less of all of these kind of tiny little details that you see in these cards. So these are the majors, and they are, some of them, very cool. I'm curious about specifically, yeah, things like Cernunnos is the devil, the tower. So yeah, you know, there's definitely, it's definitely a lot of Welsh mythology. I have the hardest time. I can never say the words Welsh mythology. So, which I know is you know, quite similar, obviously, to the Llewellyn Tarot, but this specifically focused on the Arthur story. really some just beautiful cards. This Judgment card is really lovely. I mean, there's some just gorgeous stuff in here. So yeah, I'm going to show a couple. The wand suit is spears. So I'm really just going to show a couple, and then maybe some of the quartz. Let's take a look at what we've got for quartz. So it looks like the page here, and I'm wondering if this is true of all of them. The pages are an animal. So we've got the hare for the Page of Spears. The Knight of Spears appears to be a particular knight. In this case, it's Sir Bedivere. And we've got a queen and a king. So yeah, so that's cool. I'm now very curious about the other pages, but we'll just take a look at a few of the swords cards here. All of the cards do have a little kind of inset image of the actual pips, and then the title at the top. So okay, so yeah, again, so in the sword suit, the page is an animal. And again, we've got a knight for the knight. We've got Gawain for the Knight of Swords, Margaux for the Queen of Swords, and Mordred for the King of Swords. So yeah, that's very interesting. So now we've got the Ace of Cups, and the 2. Yeah, I'm very interested now to read the book and just sort of understand how all of these different characters and concepts associate with. So for the Page of Cups, we've got the Salmon, Galahad as the Knight of Cups, and Britannia as the Queen of Cups, and the Fisher King as the King of Cups. That is very interesting. And then it looks like instead of pentacles here, we've got shields. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading the book now. And again, I'm just going to flip through some cool stuff here I'm already seeing that I kind of like. Looks like we've got a Badger for the Page of Shields. We've got Sir Bors for the Knight of Shields, Igraine for the Queen of Shields, and Uther for the King of Shields. And then there's a couple of extra cards here, just an illustration card with the dragon on it and the horseshoe spread illustrated. So, and actually, I actually know this spread. I've used this horseshoe spread before. I saw it somewhere else. I've used it specifically, and I don't know if she came up with it or if she took it from somewhere else and that's where I saw it or what, but for some reason I've known this spread for a very long time. So again, this is so interesting. It's like I'm going into all of these like dusty corners of my brain and remembering things that I didn't remember from before, just sort of dredging them up. So it's really quite fascinating. Because I didn't go through every card, I'm not going to go ahead and shuffle it right now, but I think it can be pretty much assumed that this is going to be a very nice shuffle, just because again, it's this Llewellyn cardstock and older Llewellyn cardstock, and it shuffles really nicely. That's basically the best thing about it that you can say for it. It does not hold up well, but it's a lovely shuffle. For me, at least, I'm a riffle shuffler. So anyway, so yeah, so this very odd experience brought to you by me browsing tarot decks while I was on Amazon and suddenly going, oh my God, I've seen this before. I had this before. What did I do with it? Oh my God. And yeah, I totally out of nowhere. And so $15 solved the mystery. So anyway, thanks so much for watching, you guys. Have a great one. Bye-bye.